The red slides that you'll see afterwards are practical tips. If there's anything you should remember for the rest of the presentation, it's those red slides, practical tips which you can implement today. The sources of information, it's actually way more than this, but among other things, if you're not happy with what I'm sharing today, or if you've not had enough, or you don't want to join the 10x MBA program because it's too expensive, or you can't get your company to pay for you, read those books. Those books are what have inspired us all these years to try and become a superhuman in a humble way, of course, but these books will give you a lot of inspiration. We're going to focus on 3 things today. The first topic will be reading, sharing, mixing, and publishing your ideas. The second thing will be how to be critical, how to be persistent, how to be more open-minded. And thirdly, in this presentation today for the next half an hour, how to remain excited about everything. So these are the 3 topics I'm going to go through in a very practical way, although, again, as I mentioned, not as practical as if it were a hands-on workshop. This is a presentation. During the 10x MBA program, we will be conducting projects with you so that you directly implement what you're learning. So let's come with the first topic. Reading, sharing, mixing, and publishing ideas. Do you know this guy? I'm sure you do. You've probably seen his face. And you probably have seen many quotes on the internet from this gentleman here, who's Einstein, who was this great physicist. And here's the thing. Einstein wrote many papers that about physics. But did you know that he wrote, as you can see on the slide here, 248 papers on physics? But most of them had no impact or minimal impact, and only a few on relativity transform physics. So what's the point here? To come with good ideas, you actually have to produce a lot. You have to produce many bad ideas, I'm sorry to say, for some good ideas to emerge. And the point here is, it's not just Einstein. You look at all the geniuses out there that have existed in the past, even today, they produce and try a lot. Beethoven, Mozart, for any music fans out there, or for classical music, in every field, even the most famous creators have produced a large quantity of work that is overall fine, but actually considered not that great by the experts and the various audiences. It's funny because it's some people think there's a trade-off between quantity and quality. Well, the thing is, if you want to do better work, you have to do less of it. This is what people think, but it turns out to be false. If you look at any creator, they have produced and have tried startups after startups and project after projects. I have failed so many projects you have no idea. I don't think I have had the time today, but I prepared this for next time. I have tried maybe 30, 40 different projects on the side of my work at Google, and a lot of them have failed. One day I'll put a slide together with all the screenshots of everything I have tried. Practical tip, produce a lot. What are the odds for the Nobel Prize winner relative to typical scientists to actually have won the Nobel Prize as opposed to these typical scientists? Let's see what their other occupations. So what you're going to see on the slide here is additional domains of interest these scientists have had as opposed to regular scientists, and they, as opposed to the traditional scientists, have gotten Nobel Prizes. So here's the thing. If a scientist was playing music, an instrument, composing music, the likelihood of him, the chance of him getting a Nobel Prize was twice as high as someone who did not play music. A scientist who was drawing, painting, sculpting was 7 times more likely to get a Nobel Prize as someone who did not do any arts. If the scientist was woodworking, playing with electronics, glass blowing, even there was a glass blower among the actually there's no mathematics Nobel Prize, that's time for another story, but in physics or chemistry, they were also 7 times more likely to get a Nobel Prize. Writing was even more, increased even more the likelihood of getting a Nobel Prize in physics or chemistry or biology. Writing means poetry, means short stories, popular books. And finally, performing, being an amateur actor, an amateur dancer, a magician on Saturday nights, with your family or at the restaurant increased your odds by 22 times. 22 times more likely to get a Nobel Prize in physics if you're a regular scientist performing on the side. So you can see that if you do perform things and you have this cross-domain interest, you're maybe more likely to be more successful. And why is that? And here's the thing. The theory that some people have come up with is there is the T, this is the T concept. The T is like this letter. And the main area of the T here, let me see if I can put the pointer. Yeah, maybe you can see my pointer in red. The main area here where you see depth is have one area where you're excellent, where you're going at depth. And have two at least areas where you can expand your horizon. In one area on the left and one other area on the right here. You don't have to go at depth, but this will inspire you in ways that are unexpected to you. What is your T? And in my case, I'll give you this example. I think my T, the depth that I have acquired over 15 years of working. Am I that old already? Yeah, oh my God, I'm already more than 15 years of professional experience. To come up with the mini MBA has been 12 years at Google, 2 years at Dell, and less than a year at Accenture. And I've been in other companies. And this has led me to create this and try to share with you all the project management techniques I have acquired and try to create this program with a team, with a 10x MBA team. Now, what are the other things I love doing? Now, some of you who are in Indonesia may recognize this. This is not photoshopped. This is me in Jakarta on a skateboard. I know nothing about skateboards, but I started skateboarding last March. Now, I'm not that young anymore. I've got back pain, I've got issues, I don't have lungs. This is another story for another time because of surgeries I've had. And I'm skateboarding, and I'm skateboarding in the streets of Jakarta. Fair enough, this is a park, but I'm actually in the streets of Jakarta. Now, I love this. I know everything about skateboarding now. You can test me. This is one of my side interests now. I don't know how I'm going to use this, but at least I'm using it now, at least to make you laugh. Here's another T. It's a debating podcast. A debating podcast that I've been running for the past 2 years on this website with a colleague and now a friend of mine. So if you go to todebate.net, you will see 47 debates. You see 46 on the screenshot here, but we published another one yesterday. And you can see me on the right-hand side. This was me in Thailand recording a debating podcast live with my friend because I had no other connections. So I was sitting between two bungalows and doing this with mosquitoes biting my legs because it was at night and my colleague was in Europe. So wherever you are, if you're passionate, you will do what it takes. So this is another area of interest to me, to debate on any topic related to business, politics, and tech. Here's another area which I've just started just a couple of months ago. Drone videography. You know drones, these things flying in the air? Well, some of them have cameras, and you may recognize here drone footage from Jakarta. So right before I left Jakarta a month ago, I recorded very quickly a few scenes from Jakarta running away from the police, who was probably not very happy that I was filming the various ministries of IT and the tourism ministry. So if you're keen on seeing this footage, it's on bit.ly/objakarta, OB, because this is the name of the channel, you will see. Anyway, my point here is not to share and to brag about my things. It's very humble, it's very modest, and I'm a complete amateur. My point here is to inspire you. It's to inspire you to do more. If I can do this, and I work full-time at Google, I manage teams at Google, I have managers reporting into me, so I manage a multi-layered organization. You can do this. If I can do this, you can do this. And I'm still learning every day. Oh, one more thing. Because Nobel Prize winners are 22 times, 17 times more likely when they're writing to get a Nobel Prize. The thing is, I'm not a scientist, but I do write also on my blog. So if you want to check this out, you'll have more things over there. So my practical tip for you, and I'm watching the time, is to find your T. Find the areas that you're an expert and passionate about. Next topic here. Immerse yourself in your new domain. So here are a few things that you can try to do when you want to explore different things. You can try a job rotation. Ask, if you're an employee at the moment, ask if you can get trained for another position so that you can learn new skills and new knowledge. You can work with new colleagues. It's not always easy, but ask if it's possible. Learn about a different culture. this has really changed the way I see things. I was lucky enough to live in London. I am French, so I lived in France in my initial years. Now I'm based in Switzerland, and I spend most of my time now in emerging countries, and my boss is in the US. So I'm very lucky to be able to work in different countries. So ideally, go and work abroad. And if you can't, because it's too expensive, or you have family, or whatever the reason, if you can't, at least read. And here's the reason, here's the research. The research is the following. Fashion designers who were the most innovative, fashion designers, I know nothing about fashion, but I know this. When they lived in foreign countries that were very different from the initial country they were from, they were the most innovative. But hang on, there's a very important aspect here. It's not just about going on vacation in another country. It's not just about living in another country. It's about country. It's about working in another country, right? Not just tourism, not just living, it's about working. So you interact with people from different cultures. Also, what's very important is to what extent the culture is very different from the one that you're coming from. If you're from Indonesia and if you go to the US, it's a very different culture than Indonesia. If you go to Japan, it's also a very different culture for, let's say, a Frenchman that I am. And the third aspect after working abroad and the fact that the culture has to be different is the time that you're spending abroad. If you're just spending 2 weeks, you're not going to learn as much, obviously, as 35 years. And I say 35 years because the most original fashion creators got the most number of awards when they had spent 35 years working abroad. So practical tip here, always be reading. This is something you can do. It's not expensive. You can read on the internet, and you can continue doing that all the time. Let's switch to the second topic of this presentation. Let's focus on how to be critical, resilient, and more open-minded. Resilience. If you're already reading, and this maybe go against what I just shared with you just before, if you're already reading a lot of blogs and a book, stop reading. Stop reading right away and start doing. Start doing. You've read enough. I read all the time. I read too much. Even I read too much. I love reading news. I read news, the New York Times, I read The Guardian, I read Le Monde. I read books at the same time. I read blogs. I read random stuff on the internet. I read stuff on social media. I'm wasting my time. I should be doing more. I already do a lot, but I should be doing more. So if you're reading, stop reading. If you're not reading, read, because this will inspire you. And start doing means starting very, very small. It doesn't matter how big or small it is, just get started. As long as you get started, this is all that matters. A secret, it's actually quite easy to just look superhuman. I actually think it's more than just looking, it's more than perception, it's also being superhuman. Here's how. It's a very practical tip here. I should have put this in red actually. You can't always compete to be the brightest, the smartest. You're not all going to get a Nobel Prize. I'm never going to get a Nobel Prize. But what you can do, is to work harder than the guy next to you. You can always work harder than the guy next to you. You can always do one thing more that they're not doing when they're watching TV, when they're on Facebook. Nothing against Facebook, even if I work at Google. Okay, you can laugh. It's okay. I have something against Facebook. I don't like it. Or Instagram, or whatever it is. I know Instagram is part of Facebook. It's okay. You can spend time on Instagram. But the time that you don't spend on Instagram, you can spend it doing things. You can work harder. So do it. Carve out blocks of time, 2-3 hours, to do only one thing. And every day, ask yourself if that one thing is enough to make you feel satisfied. And that's it. It doesn't take more to look or even be superhuman. You know my reputation at work? You know what my team thinks? In a funny way, but a very serious way? They think I never sleep. Now, they don't know, and this is another value of 10x MBA, that I automate my life very much. I know how to code, so I send automated emails so they think I'm awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. Don't tell them, it's a secret. And Anuj used to work with me at Google, and Vibe does work with me at Google, so maybe I shouldn't tell this to the 10x MBA team, but this is one of my tricks. But they have that reputation, but I actually do sleep. I actually stay about 9 to 10 hours a night in my bed. I don't sleep because I think about 10x MBA and this presentation, and I'm nervous today, and I hope this is insightful for you. But it doesn't take more than this to look or even be superhuman. So the practical tip here is start with one thing, even just one word. You've always wanted to be a blogger? Well, start with one word. One word. Today, a second word, right? Of the post that you were intending to write. You want to post, you want to be famous on Instagram, like these people who have millions of followers on Instagram. That's okay. You can do that too. Just post one photo today. Do it right after this session. Do it, please, by all means. And let us know that you are inspired today because we have selected you, because you have this inside of you to start doing. You want to become a YouTube star, or even not a YouTube star, you just wanted to start a YouTube channel, then just start posting one video, anything, just you sharing your feedback about this presentation today. It can be just that, just 1 minute. Use your phone, upload it to YouTube, share it with us. We'll be proud of you, you'll be proud of yourself, and tomorrow, keep going, keep doing it every day. Do you know this guy? Anyone? Of course, I can't hear you because this is a live stream. Sorry. And this is Pablo Picasso, famous Spanish painter. And here's the story. The story is, one day he was in a restaurant and Picasso was asked by the lady who was sitting to the table away from him. He was not having lunch with that woman. He was having lunch with someone else. And as Picasso was doing, as usual, he was always doodling and drawing on his napkin. And he was drawing on his napkin and then he was about to go away, he had paid the bill, and that woman comes to him and says, well, could I have your napkin, please? Because she saw the drawing and she recognized Picasso, and Picasso was already very famous by then. And Picasso responded, sure, you can have my napkin. It cost $20,000. $20,000 for the napkin and drawing that he had drawn in 5 minutes while, having lunch. And the woman looks at him like, $20,000, but you just did this in 5 minutes. And Picasso responds, no, madam, I did this in 40 years. It took me 40 years to acquire this talent to be able to draw very quickly on a napkin in 5 minutes at the restaurant, right? So talent does not come instantly. You have to keep practicing, and then your art may be worth a lot of money one day. In case you don't know Picasso that well, this is another painting from Picasso from 1955 called Les Femmes d'Alger. And I'm only sharing this if you're curious about the kind of art Picasso was producing. And if you're wondering whether this is worth any money, well, just so that you know, it was sold for almost $200 million. Just this painting, $200 million. So yes, it seems, some kind of strange art can sell one day. So, don't worry if people don't like what you do. Who knows, one day someone else may like it and put a lot of money for it. Practical tip, practice, do things every day. Share it with us. You have our email addresses. Again, I'll give it to you. Contact or questions at 10xmba.com. We want to hear from you. Even if you don't join the 10x MBA program, let us know what you're doing. Show us that we actually can inspire you to do something. Challenge assumptions. All this today is about being curious, being creative. The problem is we all have assumptions. We believe in myths. We believe in science fiction. And here's the thing. Why am I showing these monkeys? I want to share the story of 5 monkeys with you. It's a real story. It's a real research that has been conducted with people in lab coats, in white lab coats. Scientists have done this experiment with 5 monkeys. You have 5 monkeys in a room, and there's a box of banana, a basket of banana on the top of a ladder. Now, obviously, the monkeys are interested with the bananas. So one monkey, more daring than the others, climbs up the ladder, and right before grabbing the basket of banana, one of the scientists puts a lot of cold water and on the monkey, and the monkey does not have the time to get the bananas and runs back down to afraid of getting more water. Next step of that experiment. We remove a monkey out of the 5 monkeys from the room and put a new monkey in the room. Now what happens in the second stage? That new monkey who had not seen the water, well, he climbs the ladder and tries to grab the banana. Do you know what happens? No water is thrown at this monkey's face. The other 4 monkeys who had seen the water grab the monkey and grab him down before he can reach the banana because they want to protect him from getting the water on his face. In the next stages of the experiment, you remove every single monkey and replace them by a new monkey. At the end of the experiment, you have 5 monkeys who sit down on the floor and they do nothing. They have never seen the water and they don't even try and grab the bananas at the top. They have no idea why, but they know they should not go and grab the banana, even though there's no indication that they will be soaked with water every time. So my point here is challenge assumptions. It is not because you have rules that they are set in stone. So don't hesitate to ask why. Criticize. The key aspect of remaining open-minded is being able to criticize yourself, not just others and the ideas of others. And that's difficult to do self-criticism. And I would encourage you, if you can, if you're working in a company or if you're a manager already, to criticize yourself publicly. I'll give you the example of this guy here. This is Ray Dalio. And Ray Dalio, who's the founder of a hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates in the US. So a hedge fund is kind of a training company, so they buy stock on the stock market on behalf of investors. And he's founded this company. He received an email one day. Someone, an employee, was criticizing his performance in an important meeting. And what he said, what he did in response, he responded to that person, and some of you may think he may have fired that person, but no, instead of that, he responded and put the entire company in copy of the email and said, fantastic feedback, I want more of that kind of feedback coming to me. Right? If you do this by inviting employees to criticize you publicly, you set the tone for people to share things more openly with you. And by the way, Ray Dalio here, his net worth, his personal wealth is almost $20 billion. Yes, you had that. It's $20 billion. So this guy, who seems actually quite kind on the photo I found on the internet, seems to have found a good way to get good feedback, good ideas coming from the company. And he does not fire people who criticize him. Right? It was constructive feedback. Be open to criticism. Now, if you need to criticize others, this is Kim Scott. Kim Scott was a director at Google, was a director at Apple. She worked with Steve Jobs. And here's the key feedback she gives in Radical Candor. It's a book that she wrote about a year or two ago. She suggests that when you criticize people, criticize them privately and do not personalize. What does that mean? Do not personalize. That means instead of saying you are wrong, means this is wrong, that opinion is wrong. It's not you as a person who is stupid. It's maybe that idea specifically which makes no sense. And here are the reasons why. This is completely different. It's not because someone has an unfixable personality trait. It's because it's the problem with the thinking. At least this is according to you, right? It's way less aggressive and way more to the point of what the person is actually thinking. So correct yourself before and after when you're saying you are wrong. Like you'll realize this when you're having a discussion, an argument with someone. Instead of saying you, or if it's too late, just come back to what you just said and try to say, instead of you are wrong, this is wrong, and try to explain why. Find a partner. Keep the momentum going. Here's the key idea here. Some people are most creative when they're creative with friends. So try to partner up on a project. I have realized that most of my projects have been successful only when I started delegating or partnering up. Most of the projects I have shared with you before, 10x MBA is one of those projects, but also the drone video channel or the debating podcast are all done with people close to me, people I trust, they're friends or more than friends, and this is the only way for me to actually keep the momentum going. I have to admit to you today that, and you'll see this tomorrow if you're joining the session tomorrow, that actually, even for today, it was difficult to be ready for today. We have a lot of work to get these presentations ready. So the point here is, if you have this diverse team, you'll have many new ideas, and we came up with many solutions for this presentation today, whether from the technical standpoint, whether the actual content. Focus on the results. Don't worry about the means and whether people have different ideas. That's exactly what you want to have. All right, so this is an example with Dirk and myself on the left on launching todebate.net and recording a podcast in a room. 10x MBA, as I mentioned to you, it's 40 members. Did you know that for the three of the team members that are responding to you right now on the live chat, Vibavi, Pera, and Marina, they have never met in person. We have been working on that 10x MBA for more than 1 year. They have never met, and they are probably the best team I have worked with. They're extremely responsive, they respect each other, they criticize each other fantastic interaction. 10x MBA, same thing, 24 mentors. We try to be diverse by having all continents represented among the mentors. Let's go to the third part of the presentation. Had to remain excited about everything. The fact that you don't have to be first. There's no need to be first at everything you do. What you need to be creative and original is to be different and better. And in fact, being first does not always yield more results. You may recognize here, this is the first plane that ever existed by the Wright brothers. Have you heard of any company called the Wright Airline Company? Well, no, they invented the airplane, but nothing happened after that. They did not manage to make it a successful business. And in fact, a study shows that out of 3,000 startups, 75% of these startups fail because they try to scale too early. They're trying to make the investments on a market that is not ready for them. So don't worry about being first. It's not always worth it. And in fact, if you're not aware, Google was not the first company to offer a search engine. Do you think it was second or third? Not even. Do you think it was the 10th company to offer a search engine? Not even. It was the 18th, the 18th search engine after AltaVista, Excite, Lycos, and a bunch of other companies. And for another time, and during the 10x MBA program, I'll share more about the story about Google and why it was more relevant and more successful. Nothing is lost, nothing is created on this planet, everything is transformed. This is a quote by Lavoisier, who's a French chemist from the 18th century. And the point here is, you can make new, you can be original with old stuff. An idea, the same idea, can have a lot of leverage and potential depending on where, when, and how it is applied. So something you may see in France may actually be useful in Indonesia, right? Let's say if you look at Gojek today or Ola Cabs in India, it's very similar to Uber, and Uber has not succeeded in those markets because Gojek and Ola Cabs in India may be offering something which is more adapted to Indonesia. For instance, offering the Ojeks, right? The motorbike motorbike sharing. Here's another example here. You see this image is something I really do not like. It's surgery, and I've been unfortunate to go through surgeries many times. And here's a simple thing, a simple idea of a task list. A task list. You know these to-do lists? And imagine this is like for tasks that you have to do. Initially, that was used by aircraft pilots for many decades. And when it was introduced in the surgery room, because they were not doing this in the past, do you know how much it increased the safety and for people not dying from surgery? It increased safety by 30%. By 30% just by having a task list of things to do and not to forget. Oh, let's not forget the hammer and the scissors inside the patient's body. I don't know if they use a hammer. I'm just inventing this. I have no idea. I don't want to know what they're using. But let's assume they're not forgetting a hammer inside my body. Right? A task list is not a new theory or a grand vision. A simple act, a simple old tool can have incredible, surprising leverage. So do not hesitate to take old ideas, simple things, and put them in another domain. Remember finding your T? This is an example, right? You take an example of a task list in the airline industry, and you take this in another area. So imagine if you're a surgeon and also on the side you have an airline or a pilot license when you drive you pilot your plane on the weekends. Maybe this is how the inspiration came from in the first place. Look up to people that you want to be like. If you're inspired by Elon Musk, by Larry Page, the founder of Google, or Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, I've got nothing against him. I'm smiling. I have nothing against him. Whoever inspires you, it can be your mum, like Stephen King, the famous writer. Whoever it is, look up to them. Talk to them. You have no idea. I have emailed ex-ministers. I have emailed Nobel Prize winners because I was asking things from them. They all responded. Fair enough, maybe I'm good at writing emails, but I'm nobody. Right? I have a lot of experience at Google, yes. It's not easy to get into Google, but I'm nobody. I didn't win any Nobel Prize. So if I email them, there's no chance more than you have to get a response from them. Don't hesitate. You want to be like someone else who's famous or not famous? Contact them. See what they're doing. Get inspired by what they're doing and who they are. Don't make excuses. Keep trying. Right? I've heard things like, I'm too old for this. But there's no such thing as being too old for anything. I don't have enough money or time. That could be true. You may not have enough money to do everything, but you can start with nothing. Today, most things online are free. You can get free Wi-Fi connection in a shopping mall. You can start blogging. You can have a website. You can create a mobile app for almost nothing. It's too difficult. There's no such thing as things being too difficult. You can learn. You can take the time. I'll finish off this presentation. I'm almost done. I'll share this with you. Look at these 3 next slides. This is Phil Knight. Do you know who Phil Knight is? He's the founder of Nike, the running shoes. Now, he started selling running shoes out of the trunk of his car in 1964. And it was successful, but do you know what happened? He continued working as an accountant for 5 years. He was selling shoes for 5 years and working as a regular accountant during those 5 years before he quit his job and founded Nike. Do you recognize this guy? It's not Steve Jobs. It's actually the co-founder of Apple, and this is Steve Wozniak, and he started the company with Steve Jobs in 1976. But he continued working full-time in his engineering job at Hewlett-Packard, HP, until 1977. For a full year, he continued working, even though he had invented the original Apple I computer, which you can see this computer on the photo here. Thank God we have better computers today and smartphones. And these guys, you may recognize, they're the co-founders of Google, Larry Page on the left, Sergey Brin on the right. Now, the funny thing, they almost did not start Google. Do you know why? They were interested with other things in their research at Stanford. They were doing a PhD, and they tried to sell Google for less than $2 million. $2 million. Guess what? Nobody wanted to buy what was not even called Google then. Nobody wanted to put $2 million for these guys and what they had developed. So they did not manage to sell, not because they did not want to, but because nobody wanted them. And today, Google is a pretty successful company, thankfully. So you can say that they've been pretty successful and lucky not to sell Google. So here's a summary. First part, come up with as many ideas as you can. Produce a lot, develop your tea, find your tea, immerse yourself in your new domain, and always read, always read. And if you're reading, start doing. If you're already reading, start doing. Dedicate the time. Put blocks of time. You know what I do sometimes? It's rare, because there's Wi-Fi everywhere, but I love being on a plane. And if you can't be on a plane, disconnect from the Wi-Fi, disconnect from the internet, and focus on what you're doing. Challenge assumptions, remain open-minded. Criticize yourself, don't hesitate. Try to try criticism, not the wrong way. And I have to admit, I'm still not good at this. I get criticism, I actually react very badly. It's very difficult in my personal life, and I still need to learn to not be upset. Everyone is free and entitled to say anything they want about me, anything. I can reject it, it's fine. In my head, I can ignore it. But what I can always do is remain kind and polite. And this, I still struggle today. So don't worry, it's not easy, and I don't find it easy myself. You don't have to be the first one. You can make new things with old things. And don't forget, keep trying, keep trying. If you come and join tomorrow, you will see that failure is not a problem. Failure is a problem if you don't learn anything from the failure. But we'll talk more about this tomorrow.